Yo, Tripolar Bear. I'm feeling a little under the weather, so we're going to have a very low effort video today so I can try to get better before league starts. So we're going to go over 5 things you need to make sure you have on your filter before the league starts if you want to make just a little bit of extra money. Now, these aren't going to save your league. It's not going to make you a ton of money, but a little bit here and a little bit there, and you're going to be able to buy a few extra upgrades than you otherwise would have. So number 1 is going to be breach rings. If you didn't know, last league, grasping mails are very valuable, and you get a grasping mail by vendoring a entire inventory full of breach rings, just like you would to get a lore weave from unique rings. So when you vendor a whole inventory of breach rings, you get a grasping mail, and when you identify that grasping mail, you have a chance at getting global defense, which is a very valuable grasping mail mod. Now, these grasping mail mods can only come onto the item after you identify it. You can't use fossils on this. You can't chaos orbit. And that's why when you get the fractured version of a grasping mail, it becomes extraordinary valuable. It becomes 100 exalts or more. It's actually wild how valuable fractured 100% global defense is on a grasping mail, or now with this league, another base. But I'm going to make a correction from last league. The only way to get fractured grasping mails is from the flawless Chayula breach stones. It doesn't matter what item level the rings are. I had heard from a few people that if you vendored, high item level, you would get a fractured mod. That's not true. So it will always be unfractured, but that doesn't mean it's not valuable at all. You'll still be able to sell these for at least a few exalts just for the global defense mod for someone else to have a chance at fracturing it with their harvest crafts. Number 2 on our list is going to be Kong Ming's Stratagem. This is a very good shield, and it might be worth a few C, right? Like 5C right at the start of the league. If you get some nice corruptions even later on, it might still be a pretty good price. So this is just something to keep in mind. Keep an eye out for other uniques that other builds might be using that you'd otherwise have filtered out, as I know this one has been filtered in the past. Next is going to be bases for you to be picking up off the ground and using essences and harvest reforges on. The most obvious is going to be armor and evasion gear, right? I have a body armor here, and gear like this is going to be very in demand. Everybody wants one thing on their character, and that is spell suppression. And you get that from armor evasion pieces primarily because everyone also wants armor alongside suppression. So life reforging on armor bases, like a body armor, is going to be very, very good if you hit suppression and some other things like stats or resistance. Those are very good. And you can use resistance essences, you can use greeds on these body armors, you can do a lot of stuff like that. You could even buy 6-link bases. But if you pick up these white bases or magic or whatever, throw them in a stash tab and have a stash tab full of bases for you to go to when you get a lot of essences or when you come to a harvest plot. It's something that everybody should do so that you're not wasting any reforges on things, that are dumb. All right. Another really good example for using crit reforging is going to be on intelligence shields. So not hybrid armor, yes, or evasion, yes. Just energy shield, right? Just int. Because if you crit reforge on these, you are going to always get increased critical strike chance for spells. This is really valuable. And a lot of crit builds are going to be fiending and clawing for every little bit of critical strike chance that they can get. Now that Diamond Flask, I shouldn't say now, but now that we live in the Diamond Flask without lucky crits world, crit builds are a little bit rougher to start, so everybody's going to want as much critical strike chance as they can get. And if you're not using a shield, you're kind of trolling. So most people are using shields, and if you're using a shield, you want crit strike on it. If you get anything else decent on there, like if you hit +1 spells, or if you hit some life, maybe some spell damage, craft multi on there. Just craft whatever you think it's missing, right? Do it like a 2 elk or a 1 sea craft or something, right? And you'll probably be able to sell at least a few of these for 20, 30 or more chaos, depending on how lucky you are. The next thing we're going to talk about on the list to make sure is on your filter is going to be amulets. Now, this is something you can do for bases, but this is also something you need to make sure is on your filter just to pick up. Most people do this, but some do go a little too strict on their filters. So this is more so a message for them. Amulets are really valuable, right? There's a lot of dot builds going around. We have explosive arrow, we have like fire trap, we've got a ton of damage over time from like fizz dot, corrupting fever, etc. And amulets can roll +1 to all skills and +1 to specific gems, as well as damage over time multiplier. So a really easy thing you can do is, number one, just pick up all your amulets and identify them for a chance at a banger of an amulet. Or number two, you can Chaos Reforge, which I think is the best probable use for a Chaos Reforge on amulets, as you either get Chaos Resistance, which has 1500 weighting, or you get +1 level of all Chaos Skill Gems, which has 200 weighting. This is a very easy one to hit, and if you hit dot multi as well, then you've made a bunch of money. For the elements, it gets a little tricky. Fire Resistance has 8,000 weighting, as well as fire damage to attacks. I could just show this here. So we have 4,250. We have 8,000, right? So we have 12,200 weighting of these mods versus the 200 of +1 fire. So you're not very likely to get a +1 to all fire skills if you do an element, and it's the same for lightning and cold. For physical, it gets just as bad, because with physical you have the attack leech, you have the attack mana, and then you have the flat to attacks, which has a 9,000 weighting. So this becomes like 1375, 750, something like that, 13,750 total weightings. Or no, it's 12,750. Sorry, I got a foggy brain. That's pretty bad, right? You're gonna have to do many, many, many physical reforges just to get one. But with Chaos, it's not bad at all, because Chaos Resistance already has a very low weighting, being at 1500. So it's not going to take you long at all to get a +1 Chaos amulet, and that's just one of many examples, right? I'm not going to make this a whole harvest video. Actually, I am. The next thing we're going to talk about is Flasks. So the very last thing on our list, number 5, is going to be Flasks. When you get to red maps, this is something I noticed last league when I got there early on, and even into the second day. If you pick up life flasks or the good utility flasks, those will sell for 5 chaos each, right? Even if they sell for 3C, that's huge, right? A bunch of 3C items, but you're not going to pick up 3 chaos for a trade, right? You'd be crazy not to do that on day 1, maybe on day 2, depending on how juicy you are. But I mean, come on, right? The divine life flasks are going to be very in demand for poison concoction builds. The diamond flasks are going to be very in demand for crit builds. And you can take these flasks and you can harvest on them, which is another great use of your harvest reforges. So for a diamond flask, you can crit reforge on it to get flask charge on crit, which is very nice, and then increase crit strike chance, right? So for a diamond flask, you want it to be at least 82. And if you hit Flagellant, which is the gain 7 charges when you're hit by an enemy, this is the single best flask mod in the game. It doesn't get better than this, because this is going to ensure that you have flasks up while you're clearing, right? And while you're bossing, which is where it becomes super clutch, because during bosses you can't really get flask charges back that easy, and this becomes incredibly useful in all of the endgame bosses, right? Literally everybody wants this mod on their flask. So if you hit Flagellant on any of these flasks and you get any other decent mod, right, no matter what it is, if you get evasion rating, armor, crit, cast speed, move speed, attack speed, reduced effective crit, chill, freeze, anything. If you hit res, that's crap. Okay. Chance to freeze. You know what? They're all good. Let's talk about the ones that aren't. All right. Chance to freeze, shock, and ignite. That one's trash. Block and stun recovery, garbage. But really, Flagellant with almost anything other than those, and attack damage, pretty bad too, is going to be big money. So using reforges there can be very, very beneficial as well. Another flask to reforge on, as well as pick up, are going to be Granite, Jade, and the Elemental Flasks, although Softcore Trade isn't really on the Elemental Flask game too much. So really it's just going to be Jade and Granite outside of a few niche scenarios. But hey, maybe you fill in those niche scenarios and you get to make a bunch of money because, you know, everyone says, oh, softcore players don't use good Sapphire Flasks, and then nobody crafts them. And that's where you could come in, maybe. But with Jade and with Granite, you can very easily just defense reforge. You defense reforge on these Flasks, and you have a chance. It's 3,000 waiting for each of these. This one's kind of bad. Spell damage leech says yes. No one's really going to use this on their Flasks. But that still leaves you a 2 out of 3 chance to hit evasion rating or armor during Flask effect on a Jade or Granite. The thing is, even if you have a Jade Flask and you hit armor rating, that's still going to sell. There's tons of champs out there who don't mind, like, I don't know, unless it's some aesthetic, having armor on Jade and evasion on their Granite, right? You can also do these on a few other Flasks, right? You could defense reforge, and you might want to, right? I think this is probably one of the better uses for defense reforging, right? Even on Topaz, Sapphire, Ruby, all these other random Flasks, this is probably the best use of defense reforge. But if there's a better one, let me know down below in the comments. Because, I mean, you know, what else are you going to defense reforge on? And what else is going to give you this much benefit, right? 2 out of 3 chance for you to hit armor or evasion rating is pretty freaking good. Anyways, these were the 5 things to keep on your filter. Hopefully I'm feeling a little bit better for league start. I'm really trying to take it easy, not do too much. We got like 1 more day left, so you know, we'll see. I'll see you guys for the league launch stream. No matter how I'm feeling, I'll be logging in and blasting with Firetrap. So see you guys there. All right, like, subscribe, all that shit. Catch you guys later. Bye.